Okay, so my name is David Hartful from Black Leader Analysis, and I would like to talk to you about the Crucible. This is part one of a three-part series, and this is Successes and Goals. So the Crucible is a chronicle of Don Beck's journeys to South Africa during the time of apartheid. He was there to advise the government on how to build the new constitution. So he was there during the Cadessa time. So he actually had 63 trips from 81 to 2002. And he advised de Klerk, Mandela, John C. Hall. So Beck analyzed various conflicts in South Africa using value memes. And the important thing about that is by using value memes, you move away from analyzing everything based on race and having all the baggage with race influence your decision making. And the value memes analysis can be used to decide who is in charge of resources and the distribution of jobs. So Beck was trying to prevent South Africa from going down the same road as Zimbabwe, where they institute a national one-party system and kick all the white people out. He wanted South Africa to stay a prosperous country. So once common threads are determined from the value analysis, then general frameworks can be created that not only will help people analyze South Africa, but conflicts in other countries too. And he chose to name the book The Crucible because that is a container that mixes elements or metals from all different parts of the world into a new alloy. And he felt South Africa had the ability to be this new alloy that could take the world to the next level. So Don Beck was born in Texas in 1937, and he taught at North Texas University, and that's where he was first introduced to Clare Graves' work. In 1975, he began to work with Clare Graves until his death in 1986. In 1979, he was named an honor professor at North Texas University, and he moved on to work behind the scenes in South Africa. So after he completed the work in South Africa, he went on to be recognized by a joint resolution in the Texas House and Senate. He continued to work with various organizations as a consultant. The organizations he worked with was Whole Foods, NFL, Texas Rangers, and he used spiral dynamics principles to work and analyze different problems those organizations were having. And he's currently working in the Middle East to resolve various problems there between the Palestinians and the Israelis. So the goals of studying South Africa using spiral dynamics it will allow for a holistic perspective to be taken on South Africa, and it moves conversations away from race into values, removing emotion also from the decision making. And then you focus on solutions that will help you get to where you're going and moving forward in a positive direction instead of just moving away from something that's negative. The main thing you wanted people to understand is that removing apartheid isn't the same as having a prosperous country. So you can remove apartheid and still not have a prosperous country. So when you're transitioning, you have to have that positive focus on where you want to go and not just move away from the negative that you want to get away from. So there are 7 destabilizers that Beck talks about. One is gaps, which are inequalities in wealth and education and etc. Gulfs, which are cultural and language differences. Guilt, which is remorse from past wrongs. Grudges are feeling the need to be repaid for past wrongs. Greed is to have more than necessary to the detriment of others. Games are playing politics, working for personal or party advantage instead of doing the best for South Africa. And glitches, which are wild card issues like scandals. He also names off 7 stabilizers within the country. And the 8 stabilizers, that is, and the 8 stabilizers are nutrition, public safety, health, housing, education, ecology, employment, and population control. And those are the things that he felt was most important for the growth of South Africa. So South Africa, to move forward, was in need of new paradigm thinkers. Now, a paradigm is the outward expression of a value system. Paradigms affect the way a person interacts with society regarding relationships, affiliations, and activism. Typically, there is one or more groups of organizing principles. So a new paradigm thinker thinks in open systems instead of believing there's an ideal final state. So NPT understand one entity cannot solve a problem, and you have to integrate various organizations to improve a problem or fix a problem. So they incorporate multiple stakeholders, and they send out holistic solutions. So they have to see the big picture of what's going on, and they make sure that everybody eats, not just literally, but spiritually, financially, and existentially. So new paradigm thinkers understand it is not possible to move people up or down the spiral. People must decide on their own that they need to change their value system. NPT also try to move people out of unhealthy versions of the meme they're in to more healthy versions of the meme they are in. So they understand that significant national problems need to be handled at the holistic level. However, smaller sub-problems can be fixed from the first tier level of understanding. So new paradigm thinkers want to facilitate the healthiest consciousness at each level. So I'm going to read directly from the Crucible on the 10 principles used to build a new South Africa. Now these principles were used in CODESA as overarching principles or root principles. Number 1, the diversity within South African value systems is a mosaic and evolutionary spiral that have to be recognized and accommodated. 2, an interim process designed to address the long-term and short-term effects of apartheid and implemented by some Council of the Wise has to be initiated and empowered. 3, any statement of rights, liberties, and opportunities should be joined by an affirmation of duties, responsibilities, and obligations. 4, multiple political and economic systems, mixtures, equations, and formulas need to be designed for different states of the evolutionary and developmental change. 5, the overall management of South Africa should reflect the systematic and globalist modes of thinking against a problem. 6, a multi-tiered government structure needs to be designed which would have the capacity to successfully manage different rings, bonds, ranges within the development of South Africa. 7, change, transformation should be built into the design of social, educational, and political structures to facilitate the movement of people along the value system trajectory. 8, the new political and economic order have to legitimize the healthy version of all value systems in their respective ethnic, cultural variations, so long as the interest of the South African spiral as a whole is protected and preserved. 9, the permanent plan will set in motion a dynamic tension, liberating flows, interdependent mechanisms designed to spin naturally the spiral to greater complexity. And the last principle is the integrity of the unique South African spiral is guaranteed and enhanced by the appropriate interactions with forces, resources, elements outside the country's border. So Don Beck outlines the problem with apartheid. So apartheid was based on the idea of race outweighs qualifications and competence. And so apartheid was also used to facilitate patronage. So once you say one group should have all the power, then they'll work the system out to let people within their group keep the power. and that reduced the ability for a healthy competition within South Africa to pick the best person. And moving away from a meritocracy allowed for an ill-equipped South African workforce. So at the same token, redistributing the wealth on racial lines would go against the principles of a free society, impede the growth of blacks lower on the spiral because they're not competing fairly with everyone in the system, and it impedes the understanding that race isn't a real concept. So that's the first part of the lesson. If you have any more questions, hit me up on blackleaderanalysis.com or in the comments below, or sdnrace@gmail.com.